And a good Saturday evening, everybody. Welcome to Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw, and as I mentioned in the advertising, I don't need any aggravation. I don't even need your discipline. Saturday night's all right for true crime, and I've got a bunch of reports to get in. So, let's go ahead and knock some house cleaning out first off. Welcome one, welcome all to the drama-free true crime destination. Good to have you here. I want to thank you all for joining me. If you want to support the channel, this is the free route you can do. You can always like, share this video all over your social media, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment, whether it's here on YouTube or in the community section. I'd love to hear from you. The live panel is open for all of you. The link is pinned in your YouTube chat. All you gotta do is click. Come on board. I'd love to have you on board for a little true crime discussion to go with all the stories I'm covering this evening. First off, let me let everybody know that everything that's said here in chat, in the chat, all the comments that I make in this video, though the comments, statements, and views are all speculation, deduction, theory, and opinion, and are not considered fact unless there's evidence to back it up. If you come in the chat, please, let's be respectful. No, we are not looking for any racism, any homophobia, or anybody attacking anything about somebody else. I'm not here for that. If you don't like an opinion, there's 3 dots to the right. All you gotta do is click on that end, click on the name, and click block, and you'll never have to hear from that person again. Right? Good. All right. Trigger warnings. These may pop up during this broadcast, but just to give you go ahead. And there will be stories and maybe some images that accompany it that may be triggering to your mental health, and we want to take care of that. So, viewer discretion is strongly advised. Okay? This is our disclaimer for all the videos that we may show. Oh, yes, and I will try to not to include videos that contain any other background music. I'm going to try now. I can't guarantee that it's going to be this way. Alright. If you're looking to support the channel, I've got 3 ways to do it financially. You can go to PayPal at EKB316, on Cash App, $ EKB316, Venmo, EB the Last Outlaw. Nothing obligated, but it's always appreciated. Alright? You can always hit me up all over social media. Bethea'S Byte Reloaded on Facebook. EKB316 on X, formerly known as Twitter. That's all caps. Here on YouTube, Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. Instagram, EKB316, lowercase, all lowercase. TikTok, King of Hearts 316 2021, and email kingofhearts316_09 at outlook.com. Alright, now that we got all the house cleaning taken care of, I am going to share with you a page because I've been catching a lot of flack for one missing person story that I posted separate from these live streams. So give me 1 second. Okay. Boom. No, that's not the one, but I'll get to that one in a minute. This is some good news because I posted this a couple of weeks ago that 2 young children who were abducted over 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles have been found safe. Authorities announced on Friday that 2-year-old Willow Bryant and 4-year-old Wyman Bryant were taken by their biological parents during a supervised visit on August 14. prompting an Amber Alert search. Let me dive in here, courtesy of our good friends at KTLA Channel 5 in Los Angeles. Give me just one moment. Alright, here we go. The children were believed to be with 39-year-old Tiffany Bryant and 53-year-old David James, who were described as suspects by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The siblings have been placed in foster care after they tested positive for drugs in their system. That's according to the LA Times. They had been with their caregivers for about a year before the abduction. Look at these two. The children were initially taken near South Vermont Avenue and West 83rd Street in the Vermont Knolls neighborhood of LA. Although the children were safely located, details about their parents were not announced. It's unclear whether they were taken into custody on Friday night. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department says thank you to the public, the media, and deputy personnel for their tireless efforts in the search for Wyman and Willow. No further details were released as the incident remains under investigation. So, everybody who was involved in finding those two siblings, thank you, and thank God that they were found safe. Let's find another. Now, the way I started this off at the top of the program, I was catching a lot of heat over missing persons case. I've been catching on TikTok. I've been catching it here on YouTube. They're saying that this one case where a pair of Philadelphia twin boys that I posted as missing, they said that case wasn't real. This, that, and the third. First off, let me let you all know right now. I've said this time and time again about me, whether it's straight up true crime stories or missing persons. I cover things that the media will cover, and I'll cover things that the media doesn't cover. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, this is the case that I was referring to. This is 2-month-old Mason Amir Cornish, missing since June 8th. This is his brother, Messiah Cornish. He too has been missing since June 8th. Anybody has any information on these twin boys, you're asked to call the Philadelphia Police Department. Area code 215-686-3093. 215-686-3093. Whatever you do, please, if you see something, say something. Let's bring these twin boys home safe and sound. Also, we have another Amber Alert that has just popped up. Let me dip right in here. This one is out of Texas, just brought to my attention today. Okay, there we go. Let's share this with you guys. Alright. Okay, here we are. This is Madison Carroll. She's been reported missing as of today out of Princeton, Texas. She's a 13-year-old young lady with brown hair and brown eyes, and at the time of her disappearance, she stood 5 feet 7 inches, weighing around 120 pounds. This is an active Amber Alert. The Princeton Police Department is searching for the missing child, Madison Carroll. The suspect, unknown, is believed to be driving a white Dodge Ram. The suspect was last seen in Princeton, Texas. Law enforcement officials believe the child to be in grave or immediate danger. If you have any information on Madison Carroll or her alleged abductor, whatever you do, do not hesitate. Call 911. Get in contact with the Princeton Police Department. Area code 972-736-3901. 972-736-3901. Or get in contact with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's 24-hour call center. That number is 1-800-THE-LOST. 1-800-843-5678. And you can remain anonymous. But what we want to do is bring Madison home safe. Again, I've said this every time we do a missing persons report. If you see something, please say something. Let's bring Madison Carroll home safe. All right? All right. Now that we got all that together, let's begin with Karen Reed. Why Karen Reed, Outlaw? Simple. We got the update that John O'Keefe's family is filing a wrongful death lawsuit against Karen Reed. The plaintiffs, including O'Keefe's niece, claim the restaurants and Karen Reed inflicted emotional distress by causing O'Keefe's death. All right, here's what we know. The family of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Boston police officer John O'Keefe has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Karen Reed days after a judge refused to dismiss charges against her. The August 26 filing obtained by Court TV lists Karen Reed, Waterfall Bar and Grill, and C.F. McCarthy's as defendants and demands a trial by jury. The lawsuit details Reed's actions the night of O'Keefe's death, including that C.F. McCarthy's served her 7 drinks and allowed her to leave the establishment with an alcoholic beverage. From there, it claims Waterfall Bar and Grill served Reed even though she showed signs of intoxication. The filing also accused Reed of knowingly hitting O'Keefe with her SUV and leaving him to die. It also details Reed's actions on January 29, including going to the grieving house of the O'Keefe family, feigned comfort to O'Keefe's family, and used the opportunity to, amongst other things, remove the offending weapon, her vehicle, and or destroy relevant evidence. The plaintiffs, including John O'Keefe's niece, claim the restaurants and Reed inflicted emotional distress by causing O'Keefe's death. In July, Judge Beverly Canone declared a mistrial in the case against Reed after the jury insisted they couldn't reach a unanimous verdict. Reed was charged with second-degree murder, motor vehicle manslaughter, and while driving under the influence and leaving the scene of a collision causing injury or death. In the weeks following, the defense filed multiple motions claiming they were contacted by jurors who insisted they had agreed to unanimously find Reed not guilty of murder and leaving the scene of a deadly crash. Even the prosecution filed a notice with the court saying that people presenting themselves as jurors had told them the same thing. Following a hearing earlier this month, Canone refused to dismiss charges against Reed, settling the case to move forward for a retrial in January. So now Karen Reed has got not only this case against her, the criminal case coming up in January, but she's got this civil suit by the family. How deep in trouble is she in? Jeez. I really think you couldn't dig a hole deep enough. How is she gonna be able to handle the defense now, given that previously she had been granted a mistrial because the jury couldn't come out with a unanimous verdict. Oh wait, they did, but it was too late. Here they are coming out saying to the both the prosecutor and defense attorneys, oh yeah, we found Karen Reed unanimously not guilty on the top charges. Now it's got to be done all over again. See you in January, folks. Next up, let me get ready and get my trigger warning up. Because the next story I'm about to bring you may need this trigger warning. All right. A former teacher is accused of let me see if try to clean this up as best as possible because YouTube. Okay, that works. The very first line in the article. A former teacher accused of sexually abusing students will face 13 of more than 20 charges against her when her trial begins in January. On Monday, a judge granted a motion from Alyssa McCommon's defense to sever some of the charges in her case, which means that when her trial begins in January, it'll focus on only one alleged victim rather than the 3 listed in the indictment. McCommon will stand trial on the remaining charges after the first trial ends. McCommon is charged with the rape of a... Excuse me. Sorry, YouTube. She's charged with the sexual assault of a child, tampering with evidence, coercion of a witness, and aggravated stalking for her alleged relationship with former students. She was first arrested in September 2023 after multiple alleged victims came forward to report inappropriate behavior. The Covington Police Department said the alleged victims each reported McCommon began playing video games with them, then started chatting with them on social media, and then eventually sending sexually explicit content and requesting sexual relations with the victim. The first trial will center around an alleged victim who was just 12 years old when the relationship began in 2021. After her initial arrest in early September 2023, McCommon bonded out of jail, but was taken back into custody after reaching out to the alleged victims. Police said McCommon used a previously unknown phone number to initiate contact with an alleged victim and used a specific code word previously used to indicate the child should be alone. Police noted after using the code word on September 28, 2023, the evidence indicates McCommon sent multiple text messages to the victim indicating he would regret doing this. During the same conversation, McCommon, who was fired from her job as an elementary teacher at Charger Academy, told the alleged victim she was pregnant with his child, according to a report from USA Today. McCommon remains in custody and is due back in court for a status hearing in October. Her first trial is scheduled to begin on January 7th, 2025. And as you can see here, This is a shot of McCommon being escorted to a squad car in handcuffs on September 28, 2023. All right. First, let me say this. This is this is just another case of another teacher getting into a relationship with a student and thinking she wasn't going to get caught. Surprise, surprise. Does Mary Kay Letourneau ring any bells, ladies and gentlemen? Because it was Mary Kay Letourneau's case way back when that started all this. Think about it. Now she's in hot water for not only the one victim that they're gonna focus on in January, but there's a couple others, and she figures she's gonna get away with it. Come on. All right, let's move right on. And now it's time for a brand new chapter in Did He Do It? Tonight, Diddy wants lawsuit tossed, says it's full of blatant falsehoods. He's asking a federal judge to throw out a lawsuit from a music producer who accused the music mogul of sexual abuse. Did he do it? Sean Diddy Combs is fighting back against the RICO and sex trafficking charge allegations made in a lawsuit by his former employee, saying the suit's true purpose was to generate media hype and exploit it to extract a settlement. In a motion filed Monday in Manhattan federal court, Diddy's legal team argued each claim by Rodney Lil Rod Jones brought forth in his complaint, which they said was replete with legally meaningless allegations and blatant falsehoods. Jones's second amended complaint is his third attempt to dress up a run-of-the-mill commercial disagreement as a salacious RICO conspiracy, the motion states. Running to nearly 100 pages, it includes countless tall tales, shameless celebrity name drops, and irrelevant images. Yet, despite all its hyperbole and lurid theatrics, the SAC fails to state a single viable claim against any of the Combs defendants. Jones, a music producer who worked on Diddy's most recent record, first filed his lawsuit in February, alleging Diddy conspired with a slew of defendants in a RICO enterprise set up to acquire and transport drugs, firearms, and sex workers, some of whom were minors. The complaint also accused the music mogul of sex trafficking and sexual assault, with Jones claiming Diddy subjected him to, quote, constant, unsolicited groping, that he tried to groom the producer into engaging sexual acts with others, including actor Cuba Gooding Jr. The suit, which is seeking $30 million in damages, was amended in March, the same day federal agents raided two of Combs' homes, reportedly as part of a sex trafficking investigation. At the time, it was the fifth lawsuit alleging sexual crimes since Combs' longtime girlfriend Cassie sued him for sexual assault and physical abuse in November, which was settled soon after. Similar to a statement at the time of Jones's filing, in which Diddy's lawyer called him a liar, looking for an undeserved payday, the motion to dismiss claims the producer's statements and videotaped threats on social media are part of a calculated effort to promote his personal brand and profit from the exposure. It cites a video Jones posted on X in which he laughs about the suit despite it claiming severe emotional distress, demands Diddy pay him that money by Monday, and warned, "I'm from Chicago. We don't play about our business," quote unquote. Diddy's attorneys also say Jones has taken a page from his attorney's playbook in this way, as the producer's lawyer was apparently recently referred to a court grievance committee for engaging in a pattern of improperly filing cases in federal court to garner media attention, embarrass defendants with salacious allegations, and pressure defendants to settle quickly. In regards to each claim, the motion states Jones' suit fails to show facts that a RICO enterprise exists, where and when a sexual assault occurred, that Diddy could have foreseen or controlled an alleged assault by another perpetrator, or that threats of force, fraud, or coercion were used to compel Jones to commit a commercial sex act, or that Jones is a victim under trafficking victims law. It also argues against the breach of oral contract and emotional distress claims Jones made in his suit. Mr. Jones is nothing more than a con man, shamelessly looking for an easy and wholly undeserved payday, Diddy's attorney Sean Hawley said in a statement. "We have indisputable, incontrovertible proof that his claims are complete fabrications. Our attempts to share this proof with Mr. Jones' attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, have been ignored, as Mr. Blackburn has refused to return our calls. We look forward to addressing these ridiculous claims in court and intend to take all appropriate action against all who are attempting to peddle them." In a statement to Deadline, Blackburn said the motion to dismiss Jones' lawsuit was nothing more than a billing exercise by Sean Combs' latest set of lawyers. "It is a weak attempt to fill their pockets before he is indicted, and they decide to haul ass, just like his 5 previous lawyers did." Blackburn continues to say, "If their client does not engage in salacious behavior, I would not have anything salacious to file. I pick my clients. I do not pick their facts." So we're right back again where that started. The only difference is we just have someone new saying he did it. But the question remains, and we have to find this out in court. The question still remains: did he do it? Come back for another update, and we will find out eventually if did he do it. Next up, the first of 8 men. Oh no! That I'll update that a little bit later. I'll update that a little bit later because right now the jury is still deliberating. They won't continue deliberation until Tuesday, but I'll update you on that in a little bit. First off, Carly Gregg. She's facing a potential life sentence if she's convicted for killing her mother and attempted murder of her stepfather. She had a chance to take a plea deal, and Carly said, In fact, I'm going to take you right now into the courtroom for that hearing. Carly Gregg, not taking a plea deal, facing up to 40 years. No, the plea deal was for 40 years. Now that she's not taking that, she could be facing life behind bars. Let's go to the All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Kouri Arthur presiding.
All right, please be seated. Let's see. Okay. All right, State of Mississippi versus Carly Drag, calls number 2024-34169. Please bring the defendant to the podium. All right, we're here by way of pretrial conference checklist, which means that the defendant has rejected any recommendation from the state. For the record, what was the last recommendation of the state of Mississippi?
Here, the state recommended 40 years in the custody of Mississippi Department of Corrections and agreed to not cross counts 2 and 3 of the indictment. But again, there were fines and no contact and things like that.
All right, Ms. Gregg, did you receive that recommendation of 40 years?
Yes, sir.
And it was your choice and your choice alone to reject that recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor.
You know, if she proceeds to trial, count 1, what's the potential sentence?
Life.
If the jury fails to affix the sentence at life, what's the sentencing range?
20 years to 40 years.
All right, and count 2, what's the potential sentence?
Between 20 years and life.
All right. She's 14 years old, so if the jury fails to affix the punishment at life, she's facing 50 years.
Give or take, Your Honor, yes.
Okay. And in count 3, what's she facing?
Another 10 years.
Another 10 years. So the jury will either acquit you, or you'll be facing 2 life sentences, or this court can sentence you up to 93 years. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's your choice and your choice alone to proceed to trial.
Yes, Your Honor.
Have a seat. It says discovery is complete except expert reports from Melton experts. I thought I've ordered that. Those be turned over 3 times. Has that been received by the state?
No, sir, Your Honor. And I just, before you walked in, got with counsel opposite and showed them 2 orders that were motions that he granted last time we were in front of you. The order granting our motion to compel their compliance with the mental evaluation analysis, and also the order granting the motion to compel compliance with Rule 17. May I-
Do you still intend on trying to offer experts at this trial?
Here, we have an expert that's going to be doing an evaluation. We do not plan on contacting them.
All right.
And Your Honor, just for the clarification, we're aware of the time constraints, and we know that we have to get our evaluation done, our evaluation done on Thursday. Yeah.
Actually, the reports were a month ago, Mr. Hammond. I signed an order more than a month ago. Now, I'm not going to, there's nothing in front of me to rule on at this time. There's nothing in front of me to rule on at this time. All right. Says that there's some pending motions, anticipated motions, suppress urine test, and both sides think it'd be 3 days for trial. Is that correct by the state?
Your Honor, I believe it'll take probably a little more than 3 days. But there are additional motions that the state intends to file, certain list of motions in limiting.
All right. Other defense?
Your Honor, I expect the trial itself will probably take 45 days.
All right. I'll remind both sides that these jurors are getting paid a whopping $25 a day. So y'all drag this case out at your own peril. However, I'm going to give each side plenty of time to try your case. All right. All motions under Rule 16.1, the motion filing deadline is this Friday, August 30th, 2024. Under Rule 34.1, the Mississippi Rules of Criminal Procedure, all motions must be in writing and must contain a concise statement of the precise relief requested, and must state the specific factual grounds and specific legal authority. Failure to comply will result in the motion being considered procedurally abandoned or waived. Responses must be filed in writing before the close of business Wednesday, September 4th, 2024, or the motion may be considered confessed. Reply to any response may be filed if desired before the close of business on Friday, September 6, 2024. Rule 34.2, you must be in court on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 at 9 o'clock for hearings on pretrial motions. All jury instructions must be pre-filed before the close of business on Friday, September 13th, 2024. The court will not entertain a request for jury instructions either party failed to pre-file unless there is good cause shown. Additionally, an editable copy of all instructions must be emailed in Microsoft Word format to sbutler@rankingcounty.org. All right, I need this attorney for the state. I've already signed off on this.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God, yeah.
Do I need to put the additional motions?
No, as long as the motions are filed by the motion filing deadline, the court's going to consider all motions both parties file. As long as they contain a legal basis and, some case law. All right, anything further from the state?
All right, I think the only pending matter, and this may be something that we address at the pretrial conference, is the defendant, and I don't have it in front of me, I think filed a motion to transfer to youth court that we've never heard.
You want to hear that on pretrial conference day, or do you want to hear it today?
Pretrial conference day.
All right, the court will hear that matter on pretrial conference day. Anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Best of luck to both sides. The defendant will remain in custody to await trial. Court will be in recess for 15 minutes.
Okay, let me run this back. She's accused of killing her mother and shooting her stepfather. That's murder and attempted murder. She turns down a plea deal of 40 years. Now she's facing a life sentence plus an extra let me see. According to the article here, if she's convicted, Carly Gregg faces a life sentence for the murder, 20 to life for attempted murder, and 10 years for tampering with evidence. So the way the judge said it, if I heard him right, she could go down for 2 life sentences, or a total of a whopping 93 years. I don't know about you. I almost forgot. This young lady is all of 15 years old. She was 14 when she was arrested for this. And as you probably figured out, she's being tried as an adult. Now, take all that information, plus all the sentencing information if she's convicted, and do the math with that. Doesn't look good, does it? Carly Gregg? You better pray that your attorneys can pull some kind of magic or something to get you acquitted, because right now, even before this pre-trial hearing that'll be coming up for you soon, It does not look good for you. Not at all. We're going to move right along here. Speaking of trial dates being set, following a 2-day preliminary hearing, a judge has set a trial date for Kouri Richins, the grief author who's accused of murdering her husband. And that case will jump off on April 28th. Here's the breakdown. Following a 2-day preliminary hearing, Judge Richard E. Mrazek set a trial date of April 28th, 2025 for Kouri Richins. The trial is expected to last 4 weeks. Kouri is facing a list of charges including murder for the death of her husband Eric Richins, who prosecutors say was poisoned by a cocktail laced with a lethal dose of fentanyl in March 2022. Kouri, who wrote a children's book about her husband's death, was charged with his murder 1 year later. In May, prosecutors filed an amended complaint against Kouri, adding financial crimes to her list of charges. The updated filing and its evidence forced a delay in the case, followed by a further delay after Kouri's attorneys requested the prosecution be disqualified from the case before abruptly withdrawing themselves. On Monday, prosecutors called a detective with the Summit County Sheriff's Office to the stand who relayed his discussions with a housekeeper who allegedly sold the fentanyl to Kouri. Who allegedly sold the fentanyl Kouri is accused of using to kill Eric in March 2022. On Tuesday, the hearing centered around an additional attempted murder charge filed in March that accused Kouri of slipping fentanyl into her husband's favorite sandwich on Valentine's Day, causing a severe but non-fatal reaction. Summit County Prosecutor Brad Bloodworth defended the attempted murder charge by describing how he thinks Kouri learned lessons during the first unsuccessful attempt on her husband's life that helped her carry out the killing 17 days later. Prosecutors also relayed text messages between Kouri and her husband, as well as her friend and person with whom she was possibly having an affair. Following the preliminary hearing, the judge ordered that Kouri be bound over on all charges, including homicide, attempted homicide, forgery, and fraud. Kouri entered a plea of not guilty to 11 charges. She'll be back in court September 23rd for a pretrial conference. Pretrial conference on September 23rd, but she won't actually stand trial until April of next year. And boy, she's got a lot to answer for. So, at least this one isn't as drama-filled as some of the other cases we have seen and heard about. But you never know. We haven't even got in the courtroom just yet. So hang tight, guys. We got a long ride between now and April 23rd. April 28th, excuse me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna set things off right with a sentencing in the Strangled Women murder trial, Florida versus Wade Wilson. Now there may be a great deal to get through, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit up the trigger warning again. All right, let's protect our mental health out there. All right. Next, I'm gonna hit the copyright disclaimer. And now, I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to mute my own mic, and I'm going to take you right into the courtroom as Wade Wilson is sentenced for the murders of, if I'm getting the names right, Kristine Melton and Diane Ruiz. I'm popping in real quick just to let you know that this took almost 3 hours to complete. I'm jumping straight into the judge's ruling. So here we go. Judge Thompson, the presiding judge in the case, is about to rule on Wade Wilson's fate for those two murders.
Fortunately, let's see. All right, let the record reflect that State's President, Defense Counsel, and the defendant are all present. We're here for sentencing. Was there anything else that the court needed to address prior to sentencing?
No. No, Your Honor.
All right. So I have considered all of the testimony and evidence, arguments of counsel, applicable case law, and statutes. I have prepared a written sentencing order, which I'll file contemporaneously with the pronouncement of the sentence here today. I also have copies for the state and defense, which I'll hand out once I conclude. So in the state of Florida versus Wade Stephen Wilson, case number 19 CF 568. The court will read aloud the portion of the sentencing order related to the sentencing circumstances and proportionality. In evaluating the aggravating and mitigating factors, the court does not engage in a mere counting procedure, but instead makes a reasoned judgment based on the totality of the circumstances. In reaching this decision, the court is mindful that because death is a unique punishment in its finality, its application is reserved only for those cases where the most aggravating and least mitigating circumstances exist. The law never requires the imposition of a death sentence. In this case, the totality of the circumstances indicates the defendant, with premeditation, beat and strangled Kristine Melton in her home before stealing her vehicle and driving to meet his girlfriend, Melissa Montanez. After Montanez refused to get into the car with him, the defendant battered her in broad daylight. The defendant told law enforcement, when Ms. Montanez managed to flee from the defendant, he fled the scene and drove back to Cape Coral, where he decided that he would murder another person. He saw Diane Ruiz walking to work and pulled over, pretending to ask for directions. She got into the car to provide directions, but the defendant strangled her when she tried to exit. He then drove to an empty lot, strangling her into unconsciousness at least one additional time on the way there. When she tried to flee from the car, he drove over her at least one time, inflicting mortal injuries to her spine, ribs, and neck. The evidence showed that both murders were heinous, atrocious, and cruel, and that the second murder was cold, calculated, and premeditated. The defendant inflicted serious physical and emotional pain to the victims. Moreover, the defendant committed the murders while on probation for prior felony convictions, and he committed 2 first-degree murders contemporaneously with each other and with grand theft of a motor vehicle, battery, and burglary of a dwelling. There were no statutory mitigating circumstances that were established, but the court considered the non-statutory mitigating circumstances presented by the defendant. Out of 13 enumerated non-statutory mitigating factors, The court found that 10 had been established. Out of those established, 6 were given little weight. The totality of the mitigating circumstances indicates that the defendant suffers from drug use from a young age, along with undiagnosed and untreated mental health issues of some kind. He felt abandoned by his biological parents, but had a devoted adoptive family who raised him in a supportive and loving environment. Defendant did not resist law enforcement when arrested and confessed fully to both murders. The court has further considered giving great weight to the advisory verdict of the jury, who recommended that the death penalty be imposed by a vote of 9-3 on count 1 for the murder of Kristine Melton and a vote of 10-2 on count 4 for the murder of Diane Ruiz. The court recognizes that there is no mathematical formula for considering the aggravating and mitigating factors. It is not enough to weigh the number of aggravators against the number of mitigators. The court carefully considered the nature and quality of each aggravator and mitigator. Having reviewed all of the aggravating factors proven beyond a reasonable doubt and all of the mitigating circumstances reasonably established by the evidence, the court finds that the aggravating factors greatly outweigh mitigating circumstances. Given the facts of the case, nothing in defendant's background or mental state would suggest that a death sentence is inappropriate. This court's review of other reported capital cases has led the court to conclude that the death penalty is not disproportionate in this case. Under the totality of the circumstances and evidence, the court finds no basis to override the jury's verdict. The totality of the circumstances warrants that the defendant, Wade Stephen Wilson, be sentenced to death for each count of first-degree murder. Accordingly, it is ordered and adjudged that the defendant, Wade Stephen Wilson, be sentenced as follows. Count 1, first-degree murder of Kristine Melton. The defendant is hereby sentenced to death. Count 2, grand theft of a motor vehicle. The defendant is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment in the Florida Department of Corrections. Count 3, battery. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 364 days in the Lee County Jail. Count 4, first-degree murder of Diane Ruiz. The defendant is hereby sentenced to death. Count 5, the burglary of a dwelling. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 15 years imprisonment in the Florida Department of Corrections. Count 6, petty theft. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 364 days in the Lee County Jail. The defendant is given credit for all time served on this case on all counts. All counts are to run concurrent with each other, meaning at the same time. All statutorily mandated fines, fees, and costs as announced on the record are imposed, and the defendant is committed to the custody of the Department of Corrections for execution of this sentence as provided by law. The defendant is hereby notified that these convictions and sentences are subject to automatic review by the Florida Supreme Court. If he cannot afford an attorney to represent him in any appeal, the court will appoint one for him. Are there any other matters to present to the court?
Briefly, Judge, the state would be seeking $17,500 cost of prosecution.
I'm sorry, how much?
$17,500.
All right. Any objection?
No, sir.
All right. That will be imposed then. Any other terms or conditions?
Absolutely, Judge. We just want to make sure that Mr. Wilson has absolutely no contact with the victim's family in this particular matter.
There'll be no contact ordered with any of the victim's family members and anything else.
Thank you.
All right.
Judge, I understand he has other cases pending here elsewhere. Mr. Wilson asked me to ask the court within whatever authority you have to get him to death row as soon as possible.
Okay. Well, in relation to those other cases, I know we have cases pending here in the circuit. Today is not the day to handle those. I would maybe put those, I could do it as early as September 16th. I believe that's Monday morning.
That's Melton's case, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor. Malcolm Donald from Mr. Wade Wilson. September 16th would be fine, but...
Okay. Well, I think it'd be more appropriate to handle that at a different time. So let's do that September 16th then at 9 a.m. for the other cases, which are case numbers
20 CF 16591 and 23 CF 15499.
Okay. And we have court on 16th, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Judge, if I may, he also has a BOP warrant out of Broward County Palm Beach County. I'm going to get in touch with the authorities over there, but if need be, we'll ask the court to ROR him on that VOP warrant so he can be taken up to
Well, that's not a motion in front of me today, but if you're certainly able to file whatever you want to file, and
Yes, sir.
I'll consider it.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Not from the state judge.
All right, sir. Then, Mr. Wilson, you will be fingerprinted and remanded to the sheriff's department. It'll be held without bond and for transport to the Department of Corrections when it's appropriate. If nothing else, then we're adjourned. Give you your copies. This is the original. Mr. Shirley or Mr. Hollander? Well, one for the state, one for the defense. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's it, folks. Wade Stephen Wilson, has sided with the jury's recommendation to sentence him to death for the heinous, atrocious, and cruel murders of two women, Diane Ruiz and Kristine Melton. He's sentenced for to years behind bars for other offenses too, but those, in my opinion, really have no bearing compared to the death sentence of Wade Stephen Wilson. If there's any ladies watching out there, and they saw this sentencing, and they saw Wade Stephen Wilson in prison orange and shackled, and they took one look at him and get that look of, oh wow, that's daddy. No, that's not daddy. That's a murderer, a 2-time murderer sentenced to death. You want to be the next victim? Go ahead and look for a guy like him. It's almost guaranteed that would be the end result. And as far as the sentence of death for Wade Wilson, you know how I'm gonna stamp this, folks. Justice served. Could have happened to a better guy. And here's one I'm hoping and praying that gets stamped this way soon. New documents are offering insight into Jennifer Soto's relationship with Stephen Stearns, who she called a master manipulator. Those documents are saying that 13-year-old Madeline Soto was strangled to death. Now, I'm not gonna jump right directly into the video, but I want you to I want you to hear the information before you even see any kind of video. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and prep the video right now. Okay, now that I got that prep, 6 months after she was found murdered, investigators have revealed that Madeline Soto was strangled to death. The body of a 13-year-old was found on March 1st in a wooded area days after she was reported missing on February 26th. Her mother's boyfriend, who was also described as her stepfather in court documents, Stephen Stearns, was arrested and charged with her murder and dozens of sex crimes after more than 1,500 disturbing images and videos were found on his phone. Newly released documents in the case, reviewed by Court TV, indicate that when Soto was found, she showed signs of decomposition on one side of her face and her hands. Detectives noted, however, that the bottoms of her socks were clean, indicating that she hadn't walked to the place where she was found. The medical examiner also immediately noted that the right portion of Soto's hyoid bone was not intact, which could possibly be related to her being strangled. Weeks later, the official medical examiner's report would list strangulation as the cause of death. Detectives noted in their reports that Jennifer Soto, Madeline's mother, had admitted to sending her teen daughter to sleep in bed with Stearns the night before she disappeared. Jennifer says she didn't feel comfortable with Madeline sleeping with Stephen, and it didn't look right to her. Hold up. If you didn't feel comfortable with your daughter sleeping with the sicko, yet you put him in there anyway, how does that make any sense, Jen? Somebody please make that make sense. Jennifer says she didn't feel comfortable with Madeline sleeping with Stephen, and it didn't look right to her. I asked Jennifer when she started feeling comfortable with it, and she said she never was comfortable with it. I challenged Jennifer about telling them to go sleep together on February 25th, 2024, and she said it was a selfish move because she wanted a good night's sleep. That's according to the detectives, ladies and gentlemen. And look at it. Look at this sicko. Investigators also asked Jennifer about her relations with Stearns, who said that they actually recently broken up. She said that she ended the relationship because he was a messy person, and said that because of her medications, they didn't have much of a physical relationship. The detective wrote, I asked Jennifer to explain her and Stephen's relationship, which he described as vanilla. I'm not gonna read that next statement. Amen. But I'm just gonna move on to the next part, where in later interviews with police, Jennifer describes Stearns as a master liar and a master manipulator. Apparently, you saw something in him to keep him around. A roommate who lived in the home with Jennifer, Madeline, and Stearns described Stearns' behavior on the morning Madeline was reported missing as odd. She said she saw him going up and down the stairs, going in and out of the home, and was also washing clothes, which she has never seen him do. The documents also reveal some information about what investigators found after serving search warrants on Stearns' electronics. A warrant revealed that Stearns searched sevoflurane on multiple dates. Sevoflurane is an anesthetic used during general surgery. Police said, quote, it is unknown why Stephen would be searching this term, using the search terms of show up and drug test, when he was attempting to get a job, or he didn't have any children that were having surgery. Stearns has pled not guilty to all charges and has not appeared in person at any of his court hearings. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna say this from the bottom of my heart. Stephen Stearns is every bit of the coward, if not more so, than Adam Montgomery was in his case. Stephen Stearns is a straight up and down coward. I could say other things about him because of what he's charged with, but right now I am limited to the word coward. And you know who else I also fault in this too? Jennifer Soto. Jennifer Soto, as I say for many of these monster moms, had but one job. One! And she failed to do it. The end result? Her 13-year-old daughter is no longer with her. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting to catch a report that Jennifer Soto's arrested. Because as far as I'm concerned, she let this happen. She might as well be just as culpable as Stephen Stearns. I'm keeping an eye on this case, and when new updates come in on it, you can bet Bethea'S Byte Reloaded is gonna be here to cover it. Okay. Also, let's see. I'm gonna hit this up, and earlier this week I did a special report regarding the verdict and sentencing of Robert Tellis for the Robert Tellis for the death of Las Vegas investigative reporter Jeff Garman. So what I'm gonna do right now, in case you, and I'm gonna use this as in case you missed it. In case you missed it, the jury. This is when the jury recommended the sentence for Robert Tellis. So, I'm gonna go ahead and hit this disclaimer, but this should not take no more than a minute. This is the sentencing phase for Robert Tellis.
District Court, Clark County, Nevada, the State of Nevada, Plaintiff versus Robert Tellis, Defendant, Case Number C-368935, Department Number 12. Verdict. We, the jury in the above entitled case, having found the defendant, Robert Tellis, guilty of murder of the first degree with use of a deadly weapon, victim 60 years of age or older, impose a sentence of life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with eligibility for parole, beginning when a minimum of 20 years has served. Dated at Las Vegas, Nevada, this 28th day of August 2024, signed by foreperson, juror number 2. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict as read? So say you one, so say you all.
Yes.
Does either side wish to have the panel polled?
Not on behalf of the state.
Mr. Jaskowitz?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, at this time, the verdict will be recorded in the official record.
And they have that. The jury had that jury had three options when weighing the sentencing. They could have sentenced him to life without parole. What the sentence he did get, life with parole, life with the possibility of parole after 20 years, or 50 years behind bars with parole after 20. The jury decided to go life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 20 years. Justice served? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Alright, next up. Former officer accused of killing Sandra Birchmore and staging suicide. Investigators tell us that Matthew Farwell strangled Sandra Birchmore to death and then staged the scene to make it look like a suicide. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't ready to go to the video right then, but a former Massachusetts police officer is in custody and facing charges that he murdered his pregnant mistress to hide their affair, which started when she was underage. 38-year-old Matthew Farwell was indicted on charges he killed Sandra Birchmore by strangling her inside her Canton home in 2021 to ensure that their affair stayed secret. Yeah. Okay, just wanted to hit you with that. Farwell, who resigned from the Stoughton Police Department in 2022, had been an officer with the department as well as an instructor at the Stoughton Police Explorers Academy, where he met the victim. According to the federal indictment, investigators say that Farwell immediately began grooming Birchmore for a sexual relationship that began when he was 26 and she was only 15. At times, according to prosecutors, Farwell would meet Birchmore for sex acts while he was on the clock and supposed to be working as a police officer. Messages between Farwell and the victim refer to sexual violence. Birchmore was allegedly eager to have a child. Farwell is accused of agreeing to father a child on the condition that Birchmore keep their relationship a secret. But once she was pregnant, Birchmore allegedly told her friends that Farwell became physically violent and described being pushed, shoved, and placed in a chokehold. Investigators say Farwell plotted his mistress's death, even getting her to give him a key to her home. During a looming blizzard on February 1st, while his wife was in labor with their third child, prosecutors say that Farwell wore a mask, used his key to get into her home, and strangled her to death with a duffel bag strap. Farwell is accused of then staging the scene to look like a suicide. Prosecution has asked the judge to hold Farwell behind bars until trial, saying, quote, "There are no conditions of release that will protect the community from a defendant whose conduct reveals such an indifference to human life," end quote. The indictment also accuses Farwell of attempting to destroy evidence in the case, even instructing Birchmore to delete the evidence of their sexual relationship from her phone before her death. Birchmore's family has separately filed a wrongful death suit against Farwell and the Stoughton Police Department. In a statement after the charges were announced, the Stoughton Police Chief Donna McNamara said in a statement, quote, "The day after Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her Canton apartment, I ordered a lengthy and aggressive internal affairs investigation, the instructions of which made it clear that no stone should be left unturned. The Stoughton Police Department has supported other agencies and worked with other agencies. including the FBI investigation that today resulted in a murder indictment that concluded that Sandra was killed. The alleged murder of Sandra is a horrific injustice. The allegations against the suspect, a former Staunton police officer, represent the single worst act of not just professional misconduct, but indeed human indecency that I have ever observed in a nearly 3-decade career in law enforcement. It has been my life's work over these past 3 years to ensure that justice was served. As I have stated previously, Sandra Birchmore received no justice during her life. It is imperative that justice be served in her death, and today's actions appear to bring our society one step closer to justice. If convicted, Farlow faces a potential sentence of life in prison. So now that I got you all caught up on that, I'm going to take you right to Court TV and anchor Ted Rollins for further coverage of this case.
Department of Justice holding this news conference at 1:45 to further announce the arrest of Matthew Farwell in the murder of Sandra Birchmore, the 23-year-old who started as a cadet in the Stoughton Police Department and was, according to the federal government, groomed by Matthew Farwell. He allegedly had sex with her before she was even 16 years old, and they say that on February 1st of 2021, he murdered her, strangled her to death in her Canton, Massachusetts apartment, and then tried to make it look like a suicide. It was initially ruled a suicide before the family cried foul, hired their own private experts to go in and look at the cause of death, and it was only then that it triggered a federal investigation. And here we are. There's a live look at the podium in Boston as we await the results of what has been an extraordinary set of circumstances where this young woman's death has now been reclassified as a murder, and a member of the police department, the local police department in Stoughton, is now in custody. And Jessica, we were talking a bit after this news broke. One would think that this might not be the only arrest, given the fact that cover-up seems to be a part of the equation. In fact, there's really no other way that it could have gotten this far without some sort of cover-up. It would be extraordinary if other people weren't involved, at least on some level.
Absolutely. And, I don't expect that the DOJ will say specifically who they're looking at here, but they're certainly going to use this opportunity to put out a sense of panic, perhaps, to have more people come forward and perhaps try to strike deals and provide more information here. That's often what they will do. And, I think it's very interesting to your point about what we talked about before with the coroner's report initially ruling this as suicide. How detailed, how much attention was paid to this? Was it just a situation, since it's now come out that there was strangling involved? I mean, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but there are differences in the markings and things that you find around someone's neck when there is even if you thereafter try to pretend that it was a suicide by hanging and you do go through all those steps, there will be obvious things that make a difference that are factually very difficult to cover up. And unless the coroner was somehow just signing off, oh yes, it's just another young woman who committed suicide, the whole thing is, there's going to be a lot that's going to be coming out here, for sure, and no doubt.
Sandra Birchmore was pregnant at the time of her death. The indictment says that Matthew Farwell was informed that she was pregnant and that he was the father of that baby before he allegedly strangled her to death in her Canton apartment. And we all know all about Canton from the Karen Reed case. This is only going to increase the amount of, distrust within law enforcement. They're just getting ready they're just starting the press conference. We're going to sneak in a commercial break here, and then when we come back, we will play it in full, the details surrounding the arrest of Matthew Farwell in the murder of Sandra Birchmore. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott, of course, honored to be with you. We begin with breaking news this afternoon out of Las Vegas, where a jury has reached a verdict in the investigative reporter murder trial. Nearly 12 hours of deliberating have gone by. Now they've reached that verdict. Defendant Robert Tellis is accused of lying in wait to veteran at the home of the veteran reporter Jeff Gehrman before fatally stabbing him and fleeing the scene in a disguise. But Tellis took the stand last week to claim his innocence, saying the evidence connecting him to the murder was planted there by a professional assassin. That verdict is expected to be read in court in just 1 hour, and of course we will take you there as soon as the judge takes the bench. We want to begin, though, first in Massachusetts, where a former police detective has been charged in the death of Sandra Birchmore. Matthew Farwell is accused of killing the 23-year-old after she allegedly became pregnant with his child. According to the indictment, Farwell strangled Birchmore in her apartment and then staged the scene to make it appear as if she had committed suicide. The indictment also goes on to say that Farwell began a sexual relationship with Birchmore when she was only 15 years old. Let's go now to the press conference being held by the U.S. Attorney's Office outside of the federal courthouse in Boston.
Good afternoon. On February 4th, 2021, Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her Canton, Massachusetts apartment. The charges filed today in federal court allege that she was in fact murdered by Matthew Farwell 3 days earlier. At the time of her death, Sandra Birchmore was a 23-year-old woman with her entire life ahead of her, and she was pregnant with her first child. We allege that Sandra Birchmore survived years of grooming, statutory rape, and then sexual violence, all at the hands of Matthew Farwell, who was employed throughout their relationship as an officer and then detective for the Stoughton Police Department. And when it became clear to Mr. Farwell that he could no longer control Sandra Birchmore, he allegedly silenced her permanently. This morning, Matthew Farwell was arrested on a federal grand jury indictment, charging him with one count of killing a witness or victim. Specifically, Mr. Farwell is charged with violating Title 18 United States Code 1512 for killing Sandra Birchmore with the intent of preventing her from communicating information about his possible commission of federal crimes. How did this all unfold? What happened here? Well, back in 2010, a 12-year-old Sandra Birchmore applied to join the Stoughton Police Department's Explorers program, which introduces teens to policing. Officer Matthew Farwell was an instructor in that program. And as alleged in court documents, he befriended Sandra Birchmore, contacted her online, went to the library with her, became friends on Facebook, essentially groomed her. And then he committed statutory rape by having sex with her when he was a 27-year-old police officer and she was just 15 years old. Mr. Farwell continued to have a sexual relationship with Sandra Birchmore until her death 8 years later, allegedly meeting her for sex regularly when he was on duty and being paid by the Stoughton Police Department. Now, in the weeks leading up to Sandra Birchmore's death in February 2021, she found out that she was expecting a baby. And she told Mr. Farwell that he was the father. According to court documents, Ms. Birchmore was very excited about becoming a mother, buying baby clothes and other items, taking precautions to ensure the health of her new child. Senator Birchmore had good friends, she had a good job, she had dreams of becoming a nurse, and she had a child on the way. But Mr. Farwell did not share in that excitement. It's alleged that Mr. Farwell reacted quite negatively to the news that Senator Birchmore was pregnant with his child. And he acted angrily, it is alleged, when Senator Birchmore started making requests of Mr. Farwell around doctor's appointments and ultrasounds and what information would be on the birth certificate. Mr. Farwell was losing control in late 2020, early 2021, and the information that Senator Birchmore possessed about his illegal conduct was in danger of slipping out. In fact, word started to get out about their relationship. Less than 2 weeks before she was found dead, someone called the Stoughton Police Department and disclosed that Matthew Farwell had had a relationship with Senator Birchmore. And when Mr. Farwell learned about that call, he became visibly angry. Mr. Farwell, it is alleged in these court papers, started to lose his patience, lose his temper, and the 6'4" Mr. Farwell started to be physically violent with 4'10" Senator Birchmore. Senator Birchmore told her friends that Mr. Farwell had pushed her and shoved her and put her in a chokehold. She was scared. And during that same time, Mr. Farwell was allegedly planning Senator Birchmore's murder. For the first time, he requested a key to her apartment. And she told friends that he was oddly inspecting the apartment and looking at the closet, including the closet that she was found dead in front of. And then it all came to a head on February 1st, 2021. Mr. Farwell went over to her apartment that evening, and he strangled Senator Birchmore to death. That's the allegation in this case. And he used his knowledge and experience as a law enforcement officer to stage her death to look like a suicide. He allegedly attempted to cover his tracks to literally try and get away with murder. And he almost did, until today. Back in 2021, with the information that was available, Senator Birchmore's death was ruled a suicide, or deemed a suicide. But over the last year or so, the FBI and our office have been working exhaustively with our state partners. We've uncovered critical new information, examined the existing information, all of which led to this federal grand jury indictment. If convicted on this charge, Mr. Farwell faces a minimum of life imprisonment. Giving voice to the voiceless, ensuring that no one is above the law, protecting the vulnerable people of Massachusetts, that's the highest calling of people in law enforcement. And this case represents those principles. And every day across Massachusetts, thousands of police officers, federal, state, local law enforcement, put their lives on the line to protect the people of Massachusetts. Mr. Farwell violated those principles, and now he faces very grave consequences. It is disheartening to have to charge law enforcement officers, especially with crimes as serious. But it's our job at the Department of Justice to investigate potential crimes without fear and without favor. We do in this office what we've been doing for decades with our federal partners like the FBI. We follow the facts, regardless of where they lead. We apply the law and the principles of federal prosecution, full stop. We are not influenced by social media chatter. We are not influenced by politics. We're influenced by the facts and the law. Our mission is to do our level best to do justice in every case. And our mission today is to do justice for Senator Birchmore. Lastly, I want to note that we are sharing the information and the evidence that we developed in this case with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, with the Massachusetts State Police, and with the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office, so they can assess whether state charges may be warranted in this situation. And I want to thank those three agencies. I also want to thank the Stoughton Police Department for their assistance in our investigation. Lastly, I want to commend the women and the men of the FBI Boston and Lakeville for their incredible work on this case. This was a dogged investigation. And as you look at the court papers, you'll see exactly how much work has gone into this matter. A huge credit to them, and I particularly want to thank the members of my office, the office I'm proud to lead, the victim witness advocates, paralegals, chief of our Human Trafficking and Civil Rights Unit, Liz Riley, Assistant United States Attorneys Tori Cummings and Brian Fogarty. This case doesn't happen without their passion for justice. They deserve the credit, not me. Now I want to turn it over to Steve Kelleher, the Assistant Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston.
Assistant Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston. At approximately 10:45 a.m. this morning, the FBI arrested former Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell for allegedly taking the life of Sandra Birchmore in order to ensure her silence. The FBI SWAT team took him into custody at a shopping plaza in Revere without incident. Immediately following his arrest, we shared this significant development with Sandra's family. We know it does not ease their pain, but hopefully it answers some of their questions. Simply put, this case is about seeking justice for Sandra, who we believe was killed by Matthew Farwell after he allegedly groomed and sexually abused her when she was just 15 years old, violating her body and her civil rights. It's also about keeping Mr. Farwell from getting away with murder and from harming anyone else. We in law enforcement are entrusted with immense authority because our decisions can have life-changing consequences, both good and bad. To temper that power, we must adhere to the highest of ethical standards. What we believe Officer Matthew Farwell did, as outlined in today's indictment, is depraved and a gross betrayal of his sworn oath and the public's trust. Let me be clear. Matthew Farwell's gun and badge did not grant him authority to violate the Constitution. And it certainly didn't entitle him to sexually exploit, abuse, and rape a child before killing her and her unborn baby in an attempt to cover up his alleged crimes. What's also troubling is we believe Matthew Farwell staged Sandra's body and her apartment to make it look like she had died by suicide. And in the days that followed, this sworn police officer repeatedly lied to Massachusetts State Police investigators about the nature of their relationship. It's a stark contrast to the sheer excitement and pure joy that Sandra felt when she told Farwell that she was expecting his child, texting him a photo of a poster she had made celebrating the pregnancy. Our investigation also uncovered additional evidence that is inconsistent with someone choosing to die by suicide. In the hours leading up to Sandra's death, she reached out to a photographer to inquire about booking a newborn photo shoot. She also reached out to a friend about obtaining baby clothes. And at the time that she was in the middle of doing laundry when she died, with a load in the washing machine and another one in the dryer. There's no question this was a complex investigation, and our work is not done. Our agents, analysts, and financial investigators reviewed tens of thousands of text messages, emails, and financial records, conducted dozens of interviews with family, friends, and experts, and analyzed the crime scene. We urge anyone with information about the circumstances surrounding Sandra's death to contact the FBI. Committing murder to eliminate victims and witnesses is heinous, and it shakes the very core of our justice system, which depends on people truthfully testifying to what they know. Today's arrest shows that anyone who tries to interfere and retaliate against victims and witnesses in an attempt to subvert the rule of law will have to answer for it. After all, the public's trust is critical for our justice system to function properly. That's why the FBI will do everything in its power to bring justice anyone who tries to undermine that trust. Our hearts go out to Sandra, to the Birchmore family, and all who knew and loved Sandra. On behalf of the FBI, I want to thank them for their cooperation, patience, perseverance, and fortitude. I also want to thank our agents and analysts for their hard work and dedication, Acting U.S. Attorney Josh Levy and his team for their partnership, and both Chief McNamara of the Stoughton Police Department and Colonel Mon with the Massachusetts State Police for their assistance in helping us move this investigation forward. Thank you. Next, Steve.
And let's take an opportunity to bring in our guest for this hour, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Eric Faddis. Eric, so much to unpack, but boy, I sure do like the FBI is not hiding the ball. They just laid out the evidence, why he has been indicted by a grand jury, why they are going forward on these charges, multiple charges. He was not only a police officer in a community trust position. He had a relationship with her from the time she was 12 because she was part of an explorers program. So there was that trust position to then exploit her according to the federal indictment and sexually abuse her and eventually killing her to look like a suicide. It really doesn't get much worse than this if these allegations are true.
Yeah, Judge Ashley, what a harrowing incident here. And as you touched on, it really goes to the center of the public trust in law enforcement. You know, we like to think that we can trust them to protect us, to keep us safe. And then, at least according to these allegations, this officer did the opposite of that. He preyed upon the vulnerability. He engaged in obscene conduct with a minor, and then ultimately led to this murder of this innocent victim, at least according to the allegations. And so I think it's going to have a ripple effect throughout that community, and there's going to be measures law enforcement's going to have to take to regain that trust over time.
Yeah, and you know, I just have to point out the physical vulnerability. She's 4'10", according to the FBI spokesperson. He 6'4". And the other thing I have to say is kudos to this family. They are the ones who pushed it. They said it's not a suicide. They got more reports done. They got more testing done to keep the ball rolling, and then the FBI came in and did their job.
Thanks to Ted Rollins and Judge Ashley Wilcox for covering that press conference. And just a reminder that Matthew Farwell, the former police officer accused of killing Sandra Birchmore, if convicted, he faces a potential sentence of life in prison. Next, we got this one's a cold case. Husband is indicted in a cold case murder of a serial killer's daughter. Melissa Wolfenberger, the daughter of convicted serial killer Carl Patton, was last seen in 1998. Alright. A Georgia man has been indicted for the cold case murder of his wife, who was the daughter of a convicted serial killer. Christopher Wolfenbarger, who you see on the left side of this photo, was arrested earlier this month for the murder of Melissa Wolfenbarger. Her remains included her severed head. Ooh, hold on. Let me try that again with the trigger warning. Okay. Her remains, including her severed head, were found in trash bags in April and June of 1999. At the time, her remains were misidentified and weren't positively identified until 2003, according to Atlanta police. This week, a grand jury indicted him on charges of murder and felony murder. Melissa disappeared in late 1998. At the time, Christopher claimed she left on her own accord and never returned. That's according to an NBC News report. At a press conference, authorities said Christopher was always a person of interest, but did not detail what led to his arrest decades later. Her mother, Norma Patton, appeared with authorities saying, "We finally made it. He's in custody." Norma shared her daughter with husband Carl Patton, a convicted serial killer dubbed the Flint River Killer. Norma has admitted to being an accessory to her husband's crimes. Carl was arrested for the 1977 murder of 31-year-old Liddy Matthew Evans, and ultimately linked to 4 other murders, according to News Nation. Norma told former Court TV special host and News Nation host Ashley Banfield that Carl was devastated about their daughter's murder, but deliriously happy to learn of Christopher's arrest. Banfield pointed out to Norma that some people may not sympathize with her and Carl, to which Norma said Melissa's death showed them what they put other families through, and nobody deserves that. She's right. Nobody deserves that. But sadly, it's sad to say, that's what happens when karma comes around. The old saying goes, what goes around comes around. Somebody takes a life, eventually somebody takes a life from you. Maybe even yours. Now that I've said that, I'm gonna keep an eye on this to find out exactly when Christopher Wolfenbarger was going to be indicted and exactly what he's going to be charged. Oh, he's already been indicted. Excuse me. When I'm just going to find out when his trial date is coming. Moving onward. Courtroom drama follows a bond hearing in pregnant teen's murder. There was high emotion in the courtroom following a bond hearing for Jesus Monroy, who was accused of killing Mia Campos, the teen mother of his unborn child. A bailiff had to briefly lock down the courtroom as the victim's family left an emotional bond hearing from a 20-year-old accused of luring, then killing the pregnant teen mother of his unborn child. Less than a week earlier, a judge ruled that there was enough evidence for Jesus Monroy to go to trial for the murder of 16-year-old Mia Campos. A detective testified about cell phone evidence taken from Monroy's and Mia's phones, which places Monroy in the exact location where Mia's body was found during the time the state believes murders took place. At the time, no bond had been set since Monroy's July 17th arrest for lying to police. Murder charges came 6 days later. The outburst unfolded shortly after Judge Karen E. Byers set bail at $50,000 for the defendant, $25,000 less than the defense had requested. Once the court had adjourned, the bailiff asked everyone to remain seated until the victim's family was escorted out of the courtroom. While exiting, someone from the Campos family reportedly made threatening comments and gestures toward the defendant's family, prompting several people to stand up in anger. There was more commotion as the family exited through the courtroom doors, and the bailiff shouted, "Nobody move! Nobody move! I heard him!" Every seat was filled in the courtroom gallery, with most attendees supporting the defendant. Campos' family was also represented, with family members wearing white t-shirts with Mia's angelic photo on the front and an ultrasound photo of Mia's unborn child Sebastian on the back. Prosecutor Katie Lorraine Fighton McGuire argued that bond should be denied due to the up-close and personal offense of allegedly strangling a teenage girl who was heavily pregnant. Fighton McGuire also revealed that after finding Mia's body with her father, Edward Campos, his cell phone sent text messages to two other females showing a close-up shot of the blue police car lights and told them he was in a drunk driving accident, to which he later recanted. Mia's father made a statement saying that he believed Monroy should be denied bail because he could flee to Mexico or Texas, where he has family. Monroy's court-appointed attorney, Brandon Delfont, once again challenged the state's case at Monroy's bond hearing. He called the state's evidence mere accusations and said prosecutors virtually have no physical evidence. Delfont then revealed that he had evidence of his own that would prove Monroy's innocence. Delfont called Jesus' 22-year-old brother Enrique Monroy to the stand. He testified that his brother lived in his parents' home in Snellville, Georgia, with four siblings, ages ranged between 7 and 22. Enrique said Jesus worked for his father's landscaping business, and that his brother had never been arrested or gotten into trouble. He's shy. He's not much of a violent person, his brother said. Delphine asked the judge to release his client on a $75,000 bond and conceded to house arrest, witness protection, ankle monitors, and surrendering his passport. The state rebutted his initial argument, adding that when Mia's parents found out she was pregnant, they wanted to press statutory rape charges because Mia was 15 years old at the time she conceived. At that point, the state argued that Monroy had started attending doctor's appointments and showing interest in Mia's life. The hearing concluded with Judge Myers setting the bail at $50,000 and ordering a 24/7 GPS ankle monitor for Monroy to remain at his address, only leaving for medical and attorney appointments. Monroy also had to surrender his passport, which Delphine immediately handed over to the state. Of course, he's going to comply with this because he really has no other alternative. He is nowhere he can go. Unless he's meeting with his attorney or he has a doctor's appointment, there's nowhere Monroy can go. And as for the families, everybody is going to be torn because they're going to lose. Either you've already lost somebody or you're going to lose somebody. If you're the Campos family, you're already hurting, you're already upset because of Mia being taken away from you, and you're seeking justice, as you should. If you're the Monroy family, if Jesus is taken to trial and found guilty, you're going to lose him for some time too. Probably for the rest of his life. Let's go to another verdict watch. This is the trucker's girlfriend murder trial, Georgia versus Jason Palmer. Jason Palmer was accused of murdering Jessica Goodrich, a Massachusetts woman whose body was found near a Georgia truck stop. So let me go ahead and get this set up here. All right. Here's like I said, he's accused of killing Jessica Goodrich, and now we are at the point of his verdict. And I'll give you the rest in just a minute.
Mr. Palmer, if you please stand.
In the Superior Court of Camden County, State of Georgia versus Jason Michael Palmer, case number SUCR 2024-000113. Verdict form: we, the jury, find as follows. Count 1, malice murder. On the charge of malice murder, we find defendant guilty of malice murder. Count 2, felony murder. On the charge of felony murder, we find defendant guilty of felony murder. Count 3, aggravated assault. On the charge of aggravated assault, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated assault. Count 4, concealing the death of another. On concealing the death of another, we find defendant guilty of concealing death of another. So say we all, the 29th day of August 20.
I wish to inspect the verdict form.
No, Your Honor.
Anything from either side before I release this jury? right. All right, if you retire to the jury room, please.
All rise.
As you've just seen and heard, Jason Palmer was found guilty of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and concealing the death of another. Immediately after the jury delivered its verdict, Judge Stephen Kelly sentenced Palmer to life in prison without the possibility of parole and another 10 years for concealing the death of another. The other counts merged following the conviction. There that is in a nutshell. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I get to put my stamp on another case. Justice served. Alright. Now to a story I heard about. I got angry about, and this one I'm gonna have to go ahead and give you the trigger warning now and get it over with, because this is bound to set a lot of us off, myself included. Travis Peterson allegedly said he would lock his 13-year-old son up again if we return to the home. Now, who in their right mind would say such a thing? Two parents in Utah have been arrested on a child abuse charge after allegedly locking up their 13-year-old son in a makeshift cell, oftentimes for up to 24 hours. Now, where have I heard a case like that before? Oh yeah. The difference was, this case is in Utah. The case I'm thinking about is all the way out in Florida. "49-year-old Travis Peterson and 42-year-old Melissa Gray were both arrested Tuesday on one count of aggravated child abuse, while Gray faces an additional charge of child abuse with injury. Police responded to the Kearns home of Peterson and Gray after a report of a child locked in a cell. When officers arrived, they found the 13-year-old inside an alcove under the stairs with padlocked gates that did not allow the boy to get out. The boy told police he had been locked in the cell for 24 hours after Gray, his stepmother, had spanked him for screaming in the house. Keeping kids behind makeshift cells is not the way children should be raised, said Sergeant Amy Race with Unified Police. Both parents told police that they didn't see anything wrong with what they had put their son through, with Gray saying she wanted the boy to see what it was like in the city and the real world, according to the Rush report. The boy reported being hungry, lonely, and having to sleep curled up in the makeshift cells. During the investigation, detectives learned that the boy was fed only twice a day and only let out of his cell 3 times each day to use the restroom. The boy added that before he was locked in the alcove under the stairs, Peterson and Gray had locked him in a makeshift cell made out of a loft bed for months, only being allowed out to go to the bathroom. Police later learned that the boy's 22-year-old brother had been locked up when he was younger and was forced to defecate in his dresser drawer. Oh my God. These cases always hit home, said Ruiz. These are young children who are being raised by people that should be taking care of them, providing them food, water, shelter, care, love, and not in these conditions. While talking with officers after his arrest, Peterson admitted to working in the healthcare industry and worried that he could lose his job, adding that the nation and world is cracking down on this sort of thing, the report showed. Peterson allegedly told police that there was nothing wrong with what he had done, and if the boy was returned to the home, he would be placed in a cell. The boy is now staying with relatives, while the Utah Division of Child and Family Services, as well as Unified Police, are investigating the crimes. Unified Police said that if someone hadn't called in to report the boy being held, officers would have never discovered the horrific conditions. If you see something, say something, Ruiz added. It's a very old saying, but it's very true. Lorianne Thorpe, the executive director of Prevent Child Abuse Utah, responded to the news with the statement. Quote, incidents like this one underline how important it is to prevent child abuse from ever happening in the first place. Children deserve safety. Child abuse, and in this case specifically, are particularly insidious because the very people whose responsibility it is to provide safety are the ones who have done the harm. Research shows that children who experience abuse may have lifelong negative health and well-being consequences. Parents need to seek resources before situations get to this point. Communities need to rally around and provide support, and children need education so they can seek help. As much as I try, I don't get it. I just don't get it. You have one job as parents, and that job is to care for, to protect, to love, and prepare that child for the world. Putting that child in a makeshift cell every time he misbehaves does not qualify. That's the difference between parents and monsters. And in case anybody under the sound of my voice missed it, here's that statement again from the executive director of Prevent Child Abuse Utah. Incidents like this one underline how important it is to prevent abuse from ever happening in the first place. You best believe it. Children deserve safety. Again, truth. Child abuse, and in this case specifically, are particularly insidious because the very people whose responsibility it is to provide safety are the ones who have done harm. I'll stop reading that statement right there. And again, say this like I said once before. It's the monsters no longer hide under the bed. They walk in broad daylight. And sometimes those monsters are called mom and dad. Like in this case. In this case, it's dad and stepmom. Research shows that children who experience abuse may have lifelong negative health and well-being consequences. Look at this case. They only let him out 3 times a day, feed him twice a day. But he spends more time inside of a cell than most criminals do. Parents need to seek resources before situations get to this point. Communities need to rally around and provide support, and children need education so they can seek help. I really can't with a lot of these parents. There's a point. There comes a point where something's got to be done before you can become a parent. I hope these monsters like getting put in an actual cell, not a makeshift cell, an actual prison cell for 24 hours a day, just like they did their son. That's all I gotta say about that one. Next up, Donna Adelson. She has a lot of pre-trial requests, including switching courtrooms, excluding certain evidence, sending a questionnaire to potential jurors, and no money talk. I'm not going to go through that video. With the case against Donna Adelson just a couple of weeks away, the defense team argued several motions in court to ensure that their client gets a fair trial. Adelson was in court for the hearings where the judge considered those motions. My goodness, there's so much. There's so much to cover on this one. Adelson is accused in a murder for hire plot that targeted her former son-in-law, Dan Markle, a 41-year-old father and Florida State University law professor, who was fatally gunned down in his driveway in 2014. Adelson, the 4th person to be tried in connection with Markle's death, is charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation to commit murder. She's pled not guilty. Adelson's son, a wealthy South Florida periodontist, Charlie Adelson, was convicted of Markle's murder last year in a case covered by Court TV. Charlie's ex-girlfriend, Catherine Magbanua, was also convicted, as were 2 hitmen, Sigfrido Garcia and Luis Rivera. Rivera accepted a plea deal. Prosecutors say Donna was desperate for her daughter, Wendy Adelson, and 2 young grandsons to relocate to the Miami area to be near her. At the time, Wendy and Markle were involved in a bitter custody battle following a contentious divorce. Donna allegedly involved Charlie, who involved Magbanua, who recruited Garcia and Rivera to carry out the actual shooting in return for a large sum of money from the Adelsons, who ran a successful dental practice. In documents newly obtained by Court TV, a motion in limine has been filed on behalf of Donna seeking to exclude specific evidence and or arguments from being presented at her upcoming trial. They want to exclude Tallahassee police investigator Craig Issom's testimony from 2019 joint trial of co-defendants Magbanua and Garcia. Issom told the jury that he approached Donna at the memorial service for Markle, asking if she and her husband Harvey Adelson would submit to a police interview. But Donna and Harvey left Tallahassee without doing so. According to the motion, Donna does not want Issom's testimony to come up at her trial because it constitutes an improper use of her pre-arrest silence. In other words, she's worried that her decision to keep mum a decade ago will be used to impeach her if she opts to testify in her own defense. The motion also seeks to admit certain details about the Adelson family's finances. According to the argument, evidence about Donna and Harvey's wealth, Charlie's own money, and any accounts held by the family's now shuttered dental practice, the Adelson Institute, is irrelevant and could prejudice the jury. Donna's attorneys did, however, clarify that the funds given to Magbanua in the aftermath of Markle's slaying came from Charlie's money. The motion also highlights that the fact that the Adelson Institute cut Magbanua bi-monthly checks has no bearing whatsoever on Donna's case. It could also inflame the jury and undercut Donna's ability to get a fair trial. The motion also seeks to exclude testimony from Wendy's ex-boyfriend Jeffrey Lacasse, which they argue constitutes hearsay. Lacasse testified at 3 trials related to the murder of Dan Markle: the case against Magbanua and Garcia, Magbanua's retrial, and Charlie's trial. At the 3 trials, Lacasse stated that throughout their relationship, Wendy told him that Charlie bought her a TV as a gift because it was cheaper than hiring a hitman. Lacasse also said that Wendy confided in him that Charlie had seriously considered hiring a hitman, and that Wendy and Charlie ate at a restaurant to celebrate Markle's murder. In addition, the motion argues that Lacasse's testimony that Charlie was prone to keeping large amounts of cash in his home constitutes hearsay within hearsay. Donna's lawyer saying admitting that testimony would violate Donna's Sixth Amendment right to confront and cross-examine Charlie should he be unable or unavailable to take the stand at his mother's murder trial. It looks like Charlie will be brought in as a witness at Donna's trial. Court TV has obtained a copy of an order approved by the judge for Charlie to be transported from the South Dakota prison where he's currently housed to Leon County, Florida, where Donna's trial will take place. Charlie is scheduled to arrive by September 17th and be transported back to South Dakota by October 4th. Donna's attorneys also want Wendy's testimony at Charlie's trial excluded. Wendy was questioned about topics including changing her son's last name from Markle to Adelson, and Dan Markle's parents' efforts to see those 2 boys. The motion argues that Wendy's statements have no bearing on the charges Donna faces and could unfairly prejudice the jury. Wendy and Harvey have not faced charges related to Markle's death yet. Donna is also seeking to have jailhouse recordings of phone calls between her and Charlie in the days after Charlie's conviction to be excluded. Although the calls were legally recorded and Donna's statements can be played in court, her attorneys argue that Charlie's statements constitute hearsay. In addition, they want Charlie's statements omitted because they could unfairly prejudice the jury. For example, Charlie made comments about people from Tallahassee, particularly the jurors in this case being rednecks. The motion also seeks to have Dan Markle's autopsy photos and other disturbing images excluded from her trial. Those pictures, including images of a wounded Markle in the hospital before his death, were displayed at Charlie's trial as they were deemed relevant. Donna's attorneys argue it's not necessary to show jurors photos of a victim unless the issue is in dispute. In this case, they say Donna does not dispute the manner or means of Markle's death, and therefore photographic evidence would only prejudice the jury. In a separate motion filed earlier this month, Donna's defense attorneys requested their client's trial be held in courtroom 3B of the Leon County Courthouse rather than courtroom 3G, the courtroom where Charlie, Magbanua, and Garcia were all tried and convicted. They argue that 3B is smaller, limiting the number of spectators, and therefore the probability of outbursts and other disruptions, such as unauthorized use of cell phones, could sway the jury. Donna's defense also points out that 3B has no logistical issues, and insists moving courtrooms will not inhibit courtroom decorum. Finally, the defense team has crafted a juror questionnaire that they are asking to be sent to potential jurors to assist in selecting a fair and impartial jury. Most of the questions are designed to suss out how much potential jurors already know about the case, where they got their information, and whether they have already established strong opinions about it. Donna Adelson, now 74, has been jailed since she was taken into custody last November, exactly 1 week after Charlie was convicted, as she was attempting to board a flight to Vietnam on a one-way ticket. Jury selection is set to commence on September 17. Donna Adelson is in it deep. And that one-way ticket to Vietnam, I believe that was her way of trying to get out of facing any charges. I believe that to this day. In the meantime, we'll just have to wait for September 17 for this trial to get underway. Next, Brian Kohlberger update. Attorneys for Kohlberger, charged in the 2022 stabbing of 4 University of Idaho students, asked the judge to move the trial. Attorneys for the man charged in the 2022 stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students asked the judge to move the trial to a larger city during a hearing on Thursday, citing widespread media coverage of the case and the impact that coverage can have on potential juror bias. Brian Kohlberger's defense team says strong emotions in the close-knit community and constant news coverage will make it impossible to find an impartial jury in the university town of Moscow, Idaho. They want the trial, set for June 2025, to be moved from Moscow to Boise or another large city. Kohlberger, a former criminal justice student at Washington State University, which is across the state line in Pullman, faces 4 counts of murder in the deaths of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves. The 4 University of Idaho students were killed sometime in the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, in a rental house near the campus. Police arrested Kohlberger 6 weeks later at his parents' home in Pennsylvania, where he was spending winter break. The killing stunned students at both universities and left the small city of Moscow deeply shaken. The case also spurred a flurry of news coverage, much of which Kohlberger's defense team says was inflammatory and left the community strongly biased against their client. Defense attorney Elisa Massov's first witness was James Todd Murphy, the president of media tracking company TrueScope. Murphy testified that news coverage of the case has been more saturated in Latah County, where the university town is located, than it has been in other parts of the state. Latah County has about 3% of the state's population, but the media exposure to the case was measured at about 34%, Murphy said. That compares to Ada County, where Boise is located, which had about 34% exposure and roughly 26% of the state's population. Amani El-Alayi, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, a professor at Eastern Washington University who researches social cognition and bias, told the judge that studies have shown that people who are exposed to publicity about a case are more likely to render a guilty verdict at trial because of the way the human brain processes information. That's partly because people are less likely to think critically about information when they are just casually consuming the news, she said, and partly because of classic conditioning, a type of unconscious learning where the brain creates associations between certain stimuli and responses. Conditioning can happen when people repeatedly see the defendant's name or photo next to the words like murder or students killed, she said, or when they hear a name connected to something they had an emotional response to, like the fear that another crime might happen or sadness that someone died. We've seen the pictures with these ominous headlines. That connection can't help but be created, El-Alayi said. People aren't trying to be biased. It's just that when we're in a mood, those moods filter the information that we take in. Seeing authority figures like a police chief or even someone with a commanding presence say that a person is a suspect can also create a bias. She said, particularly in small towns where potential jurors might personally know the authority figure making the claim. There's no known method to undo the bias once it's created, El-Alayi said. And carefully questioning jurors or giving them instructions to ignore things they have previously heard or read about the case generally isn't very effective. Defendants have a constitutional right to a fair trial, and that requires finding jurors that can be impartial and haven't made up their minds about the guilt or innocence of the person accused. But when the defense team hired a company to survey Latah County residents, 98% of the respondents said they recognized the case, and 70% of that group said they had already formed an opinion that Kohberger is guilty. More than half of the respondents with that opinion also said nothing will change their mind, according to defense court filings. Wow. Brian Edelman, trial consultant and the co-founder of Trial Innovations, which conducted the study, also testified for the defense. He said that since November 2022, there have been roughly 440 articles published about the case in Latah County's local news outlets, including the Moscow Pullman Daily News, the Lewiston Tribune, and the University of Idaho student newspaper, The Argonaut. The local population is only 40,000 people, he said. Defense attorneys provided more details about Edelman's survey in a court document filed earlier this month. Some of the respondents made dire predictions, saying that if Kohberger is acquitted, there would likely be a riot, and he wouldn't last long outside because someone would do the good old boy justice. They'd burn the courthouse down, and riots and parents would take care of him. Okay, where am I? Prosecutors told the judge that the survey didn't provide strong enough evidence to justify moving the trial. Special Assistant Attorney General Ingrid Bately said the survey data showed that at some points, Ada County actually had higher levels of media coverage than Latah County. In fact, the fact is, Your Honor, This case has media coverage everywhere, Beatty said, suggesting that bias and pressure could be handled by calling larger jury pools and by barring the public from some parts of the jury selection process and other hearings. The court can summon 1,800 potential jurors in Latah County just as easily as it can in Ada County. Moving the trial across the state would be expensive and force court staffers, witnesses, experts, law enforcement officers, and victims' family members to make an inconvenient trip to the new location, she said. But Taylor reminded the judge that Kohlberger's constitutional rights are at stake. His right to a fair trial is as important to our right to free speech, our right to bear arms, our right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, said defense attorney Ann Taylor. And the right to a fair trial cannot happen in Latah County. The judge said he would review the law and all the evidence before making a ruling, saying it would likely be one of the hardest professional decisions he'll ever have to make. I'll do my best, the judge says. It's a challenge. There were some really important things to think about on both sides, he said, and that's what I'm going to do. We'll have to wait and see just how much of a how much of a fair trial that Kohlberger can get. Who do we have here? Convective segment. Hi there, looks like I'm late to the party. Well, you might be, but you can always catch the replay. But it's good to have you on. All right, we're gonna keep an eye and an ear on what's happening with Kohlberger. Next up, the jury is deliberating in the. Excuse me. Again, I said the R word. I'm sorry, YouTube. The jury is deliberating in the sexual assault trial of ex-youth detention center employee. Victor Malavet told police it was common for staff to gravitate toward residents they felt a connection with, but insisted nothing appropriate happened with that employee. All right. Jurors in the first criminal trial linked to New Hampshire's sprawling child abuse scandal began deliberating on Thursday in the case of a former youth detention center worker charged with repeatedly sexually assaulting a teenage girl 2 decades ago. 62-year-old Victor Malavet is one of 9 men charged in connection with a 5-year-old investigation into abuse allegations at the Sununu Youth Services Center in Manchester. Though unlike the others, he worked at a separate state-run facility in Concord. He has pleaded not guilty to 12 counts of aggravated felonious sexual assault against a resident of the Youth Detention Services Unit, a temporary holding facility for children with cases in court. Malavet did not testify at his 4-day trial, and his attorneys called no witnesses, but jurors heard him deny the allegations Thursday during the testimony of a state police officer who had been authorized to secretly record her interview with him in April 2021. In a 45-minute excerpt played in court, Malavet said he did not have relations with Natasha Mansell, who was 15 and 16 when she was held at the facility in 2001 and 2002. The only relationship I had with her and all the kids was just a professional relationship, he said. Malavet told police it was common for staff to gravitate toward residents they felt a connection with, but insisted nothing appropriate happened with Mansell. He acknowledged being transferred to the Manchester facility after others questioned their relationship. He also accused him of spreading rumors and suggested he was targeted because he is Puerto Rican. People just couldn't understand that I was trying to mentor her, he said. The Associated Press does not typically identify people who say they have been sexually assaulted unless they come forward publicly, as Mansell has done. Over the course of 2 days, she testified that Malavet arranged to be alone with her in a candy storage room, the laundry room, and other locations, and then repeatedly sexually assaulted her. Senior Assistant Attorney General Megan Hageman said in her closing statement that Natasha was the perfect victim. She was alone and afraid, but she's not a child anymore. She's not afraid anymore. She's not ashamed anymore. And that man does not control her anymore. In her closing statement, defense attorney Jay Duncan argued that Malavet should be acquitted based in part on shocking inconsistencies, not only between Mansell's testimony and her past statements, but among the various prosecution witnesses. Mansell testified that she denied having relations with Malavet when questioned in 2002, 2017, and 2019 because she was scared and thought no one would believe her. But Duncan said she only came forward after other detention center residents sued the state. Mansell is among more than 1,100 former residents who have filed lawsuits alleging abuse spanning 6 decades and has received $150,000 in loans in advance of the settlement. It's all lies. Money changes everything, but it can't change the truth. And the truth is, Natasha made these allegations to get paid, Duncan said. The prosecutor countered that the civil and criminal cases are separate, and Mansell was not required to pursue criminal charges in order to win her civil suit. If this is all about money, why would Natasha participate in the criminal case? She could sue, get money, and be done, Hageman said. Why come into this courtroom and tell a room full of strangers the horrific details about that man repeatedly sexually assaulting her? 2 of the charges allege sexual contact without consent, while the other 10 allege that Malavet was in a position of authority over Mansell and used that authority to coerce her into relations. His attorney denied there was any sexual contact, consensual or otherwise. In the civil case to go to trial so far, a jury awarded David Meehan $38 million in May for abuse he says he suffered at the Youth Development Center in the 1990s, though the verdict remains in dispute. Together, the 2 trials highlight the unusual dynamic of having the State Attorney General's office simultaneously prosecute those accused of committing offenses and defend the state, while attorneys for the state spent much of Meehan's trial portraying him as a violent child, troublemaking teenager, and a delusional adult. State prosecutors relied on Mansell's testimony in the criminal case. Jurors deliberated for about 2 hours on Thursday before ending for the day. They also deliberated for a couple of hours on yesterday, Friday, and they'll be back in court to deliberate further on Tuesday. So I'll keep you abreast of that. Next up, a Maryland Supreme Court orders a redo of the hearing that freed Adnan Syed. Yeah, things that make it go, right? Alright, let me get to this case here. 2022 court hearing that freed Adnan Syed from prison violated the legal rights of the victim's family and must be redone, Maryland Supreme Court ruled on Friday, marking the latest development in the ongoing legal saga that gained global attention years ago through the hit podcast Serial. The 4-3 ruling comes about 11 months after the court heard arguments last October in a case that has been fraught with legal twists and divided court rulings since Syed was convicted in 2000 of killing his high school girlfriend, Hae Min Lee. The panel of 7 judges weighed the extent to which crime victims have a right to participate in hearings where conviction could be vacated. To that end, the court considered whether to uphold a lower appellate court ruling in 2023 in favor of the Lee family. It reinstated Syed's murder conviction a year after a judge granted a request from Baltimore prosecutors to vacate it because of flawed evidence. 43-year-old Syed has maintained his innocence and has often expressed concern for Lee's surviving relatives. The teenage girl was found strangled to death and buried in an unmarked grave in 1999. Syed was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. Syed was released from prison in September 2022 when a Baltimore judge overturned his conviction after city prosecutors found flaws in the evidence. However, in March 2023, the Appellate Court of Maryland, the state's intermediate appellate court, ordered a redo of the hearing that won Syed his freedom and reinstated his conviction. The court said the victim's family didn't receive adequate notice to attend the hearing in person, violating their right under state law to be treated with dignity and respect. Syed's lawyer, Erica Suter, 1 T, not 2, has argued that the state did not meet its obligation by allowing Lee's brother, Young Lee, to participate in the hearing via video conference. Syed appealed his conviction's reinstatement, and the Lee family also appealed to the state's highest court, contending that crime victims should be given a larger role in the process of vacating a conviction. Syed has remained free as of the latest set of appeals wind their way through the state court system. During oral arguments last year, his attorneys argued the Lee family's appeal was moot because prosecutors decided not to charge him again after his conviction was vacated. And even if a brother's rights were violated, the attorneys argued, he hasn't demonstrated whether the alleged violation would have changed the outcome of the hearing. This wasn't the first time Maryland's highest court has taken up Syed's protracted legal odyssey. In 2019, a divided court ruled 4-3 to deny Syed a new trial. A lower court had ordered a retrial in 2016 on grounds that Syed's attorney, Kristine Gutierrez, didn't contact an alibi witness, and provided ineffective counsel. Gutierrez died in 2004. In November 2019, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to review the decision by Maryland's top court. More recently, Baltimore prosecutors re-examined Syed's files under a Maryland law targeting so-called juvenile lifers because he was 17 when Hae Min Lee's body was found. Prosecutors uncovered numerous problems, including alternative suspects and the unreliable evidence presented at trial. Instead of reconsidering his sentence, prosecutors filed a motion to vacate Syed's conviction entirely. They later chose not to recharge him after receiving the results of DNA testing that was conducted using more modern testing techniques than initially concluded. DNA recovered from Lee's shoes excluded Syed as a suspect, according to prosecutors. Syed's case was chronicled in the Serial podcast, which debuted in 2014 and drew millions of listeners who became armchair detectives as the series analyzed the case. The show transformed the true crime genre as it shattered podcast streaming and downloading records, revealing little-known evidence and raising new questions about the case. This is a case that has got me let me go to the comments from Convective Signet here real quick. September 11th guy. I don't think he was involved in the attacks on our nation on September 11th. And you say, "Oh yeah, I remember this case." Yeah, especially if you remember hearing it on the Serial podcast. Let's see, where was he now? Behind bars? At last check, I believe he is still out until this thing is settled. No, he says, I was way wrong. Yeah, this guy had nothing to do with 9/11. As far as Syed's case goes, once they get this hearing that's redone, we'll find out for sure whether Syed will stay out from behind prison bars or go back in for the rest of his life. Keep it right here as I'm covering this one. Next up, I'm kind of mixing Dancing with the Stars with a former WWE superstar with a domestic violence case. Dancing with the Stars pro Artem Chigvinsett arrested on allegations of domestic violence. Artem, 42-year-old Artem, that's how I'm gonna address him because that's a hard name to pronounce. His last. 42-year-old Artem was booked into Napa County Jail on a felony charge of corporal injury to spouse. So where's the former WWE superstar come in? Listen up. Dancing with the Stars pro Artem was arrested Thursday on allegations of domestic violence in Napa County, California, according to jail records reviewed by Court TV. 42-year-old Artem was booked in the Napa County jail on a felony charge of corporal injury to spouse. He was released approximately 4 hours later on a $25,000 bail. Artem is married to former WWE and Total Diva star Nikki Garcia, also known as Nikki Bella. The couple tied the knot in 2022. Garcia is also known for her reality show Total Bellas, in which she starred with her twin sister Brie Bella, or Brie Danielson for those keeping score. Artem's arrest came 2 days after the couple celebrated their second wedding anniversary, which they marked in an Instagram post. The couple reportedly met in 2017 when they were paired together on Dancing with the Stars. They share one child together. It's unclear if Garcia was involved in the incident. TMZ, who first reported Artem's arrest, says the alleged victim has asked for confidentiality. On Thursday, a public relations and media officer for the Napa County DA's office told CNN that charges haven't been filed against Artem because the case has not yet been forwarded to the DA for review. So, let's see. What do you think? Guilty? If you're talking about the are you talking about the previous case that I just covered? The WWE chick? Yeah, the WWE chick. WWE Hall of Famer, one half of the Bella Twins. Yeah, she was also on Dancing with the Stars with Artem. They were paired together, and apparently they fell in love, got married, had a child, and now this comes up, and they're asking for privacy. And as far as the previous case goes, I really don't know. I'm waiting to see if they're gonna redo the whole thing, have them a retrial, and let's see what all the evidence comes out with. I'm not gonna jump to any conclusions just yet. And as for this, like I said, Nikki Garcia is asking for privacy in this case, so we're gonna wait and see what comes next in that. Next, a video of Deobert Redden jumping over the bench in a Las Vegas courtroom previously went viral. He's facing trial on 9 charges. Yep. Take a look at this shot right here, or better yet, maybe I can open that up and give you a good look at it from this angle. If I can blow this up for you. There you go. Remember that? A man accused of leaping over the bench and attacking a judge in Las Vegas is facing trial. 31-year-old Deobert Redden is facing 9 charges, including felony attempted murder of a victim 60 years of age or older. He has pled not guilty by reason of insanity. In January, video of the incident that reportedly left Judge Mary Kay Holtis with bruising went viral online. During the hearing, Judge Holtis was sentencing Redden for attempted battery charges. As she was preparing to hand down a sentence, Redden was seen jumping over the bench toward her. According to an arrest report, Judge Holtis said Redden knocked her out of her chair and slammed her head against the wall before ripping some of her hair out. The report also stated that 2 marshals were notified of a panic alarm, but were dispatched to the wrong courtroom. Redden's defense team and family says he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Redden has retained criminal defense attorney Carl Arnold, who is also representing Dwayne Keefe D. Davis in the Tupac murder case. Scripps News Las Vegas has reported that Redden has a long criminal history, including 3 felony convictions. That trial is scheduled to begin on Tuesday, September 3rd. Yeah, ouch. That judge was not prepared for that. She was just gonna go ahead and sentence him for the on the battery charge, and that would have been it. Nope, that's not what happened. That's not what was on Redden's mind at all. And now he's facing charges for attacking the judge. Well, you know the saying, don't do the crime if you can't do the time or pay the fine. Alright, next up, it's a Sarah Boone update. Now, before I get you onto this update, let me I laughed at this because we haven't even gotten to trial yet. Let me try to recap this crazy case as far as I can. Sarah Boone is charged with the second-degree murder of her boyfriend in a game of hide and go seek gone wrong. Boyfriend decided to hide in a suitcase. Sarah Boone allegedly locked him in said suitcase. Sarah Boone has went through, yes, suitcase lady, yes. Sarah Boone has went through eight attorneys. None of them seem to satisfy her wants. What does she want? All their attention. So, what does the presiding judge in the case do? He decides to make her a pro se defendant, meaning she's gonna have to handle this on her own. After a couple of hearings, oh no, wait, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. While she was going through one of her hearings, she decides to put together an ad. If I can pull this up, because I have the ad in my own personal file. Is that legal? Hang on, wait till you see the ad, and then you can I'm gonna let you know just how legal that is. Because as much as I try to understand Sarah Boone's mindset, I still couldn't. Now, I want you to think about. As I'm looking for this ad, I want you to think about this. There was one point with her 8th attorney. Oh, you're asking if it was legal for the judge to force her to go pro se. Hey, actually, it must be, because she went through 8 previously. None of them would do exactly what she wanted. None of them satisfied her wants. Not needs, wants. She wanted all their attention on her case and on her case alone. Does she need a mental health eval? My opinion, maybe. But like I said, she went through 8 attorneys. Each one resigned from the case because they just couldn't satisfy all her wants. So the judge had said initially, you know what, 8 is enough. She forfeited her right to an attorney at that point. Let's see now. Okay. And as my good friend Brittany J would say, oh please. Once I can you're right. There used to be a show called 8 is Enough. Oh, that was, I remember that. Tom Bradford's a dad who he was a single dad up to a point. He got remarried, but he also had 8 children. And yeah, 8 is enough. Crowded house. Alright, there's that. Let me share this screen with you. And here you go. There's the ad. Here's the ad. I'm gonna read this as I'm looking at it with you, okay? Alright. It says, inmate seeks attorney. Are you looking for a prosperous challenge? Ready for your close-up on national television? Are you zealous with a side of Keen? Show the world who you are with your original creativity, extraordinary expertise, confident ingenuity. Qualifications must include being trustworthy, honest, passion-driven, open-minded, exceptional problem-solving skills, client inclusion at all times, team orientation, collaboration, extreme efficiency in listening, communicating, understanding, dedication to success, possessing a winning mindset, capability of excellence in representation, committed, maintaining faith in the client and case with the ability to think differently and overcome all circumstances. Epic opportunity awaits. Sarah Boone, inmate number 2005623, Orange County Corrections Department. Invest in the oppressed. Believe. Yeah, invest in the oppressed. Yes, you think so? Well, have I got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody has actually answered the call. Somebody was brave enough and bold enough to answer the call. Sarah Boone is charged with the second-degree murder of her boyfriend, Jorge Torres Jr., who died after he was zipped inside a suitcase at the couple's apartment during a night of drinking. Boone was initially charged in 2020, but her case has been delayed repeatedly as a list of attorneys withdrew from her case. In July, Judge Michael Kranick ruled that Boone's behavior meant she had forfeited her right to an attorney and said she would have to represent herself. When Judge Kranick refused to reconsider his ruling, Boone went so far as to create an advertisement for an attorney to help her. And it appears to have worked. The full-page, handwritten ad featured questions: looking for a prosperous challenge? Ready for your close-up on national television? Are you zealous with a side of Keen? On Friday, attorney James Owens filed a notice of appearance and then immediately filed a motion asking for Boone's trial to be delayed and said that as of August 30th, he would be representing the defendant. In the motion, he noted he was drawn to the case after seeing her advertisement. In the motion, Owens says that he has met with Boone 4 times at the jail, and during the meetings they discussed exculpatory evidence in her case. Owens spoke with Court TV after filing his notice of appearance and said that he was inspired to reach out to help her after seeing coverage of her case. He said that after his first meeting with her in jail, he was reluctant to represent her, but they worked out their differences and he is fully committed to the case. I think Sarah feels good about it now because I think she realized representing herself is harder than it looks. So I think she's appreciative of having a lawyer again, Owens said. She hired me, she retained me, I plan on seeing it through, and I'm determined to help her see it through. I'm going to stop right there, and well, let me go back to some of these comments here. Who? An actual attorney? A member of the state bar? She is wild. Unbelievable. Let's see this, fella. Yeah. Then there's exculpatory evidence. He's like, there is none. I give him 2 weeks. Wow. Wow, you're giving a lot of grace on this one, my friend. A lot. Oh my gosh. Judge Kristine previously warned Boone that the trial will not be continued for any reason except by extraordinarily good cause, and such extraordinarily good cause shall not include retention of counsel by the defendant. But Owen's motion argues for the delay not because of his appearance on the case, but because of the time the defense will need to retain experts and properly pursue an anticipated battered spouse syndrome defense. While reviewing Boone's court file, Court TV also reviewed behavior notes from the Orange County Jail that were entered into Boone's case. The notes reveal that Boone has been using a laptop to review evidence daily, but has also been refusing meals and showers at times. A corrections officer described Boone as having a patronizing tone and persistently misrepresenting what was being said during a conversation about access to materials in jail. Boone will appear for a motions hearing in court on Tuesday, September 3rd. Owens told Court TV that he will be there with his client. I have let's see, do I have a picture of her? I have 2 pictures of her, but this is the best one I can show you is forthcoming. Alright, there you go. There she is in all her, if you want to call it this, glory. She gives off the appearance of I'm right, you're wrong, and can't nobody tell me different. She looks like a real hoot. That one I'm gonna give you. Like I said, she looks like that I'm right, you're wrong, nobody can tell me different kind of person. We will see what becomes of this next motions hearing on Tuesday. Because you know as well as I do, because I got this, I'm covering it. You already feel for the new attorney? Well, just remember now, you gave it 2 weeks. Although James Owens said he's planning on seeing this thing all the way through. To which I said, when I first found out about it, I just said to myself, good luck, buddy. He did volunteer, though. You're right. He did volunteer. And if something goes south between him and Sarah Boone, I believe he'll be the ninth one to say I give. And our final story on the docket: attorneys for Ashley Benefield have asked to interview all jurors in the trial after one allegedly snuck a cell phone into jury deliberations. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and let you see this video straight up though, and then I'll give you all the details.
To Florida, where we have a major update in a case that we follow closely here at Court TV, the Black Swan murder trial. Last month, the jury convicted ex-ballerina Ashley Benefield of manslaughter for shooting and killing her husband, 58-year-old Doug Benefield. But now, Benefield and her defense have filed a motion asking for a new trial. Defense attorney Neil Taylor is alleging that one juror concealed a history of domestic violence, while another snuck a cell phone into deliberations. The filing says, in part, during jury deliberations, a YouTube user, that hoodie guy, posted comments on the Law and Crime Network's YouTube live stream of Verdict Watch. These comments contain real-time information that could only have originated from within the jury room, suggesting a breach of the court's instructions, the sanctity of jury deliberations, jury sequestration, and Ms. Benefield's right to a fair trial. Now, in addition to asking for a new trial, Taylor requested Judge Matt White bring the jurors back to court to be interviewed as well. Ashley Benefield is still scheduled to be sentenced for her manslaughter conviction on October 22nd. She faces a minimum of 11.5 years and a maximum of 30 years behind bars. All right, let's bring in our guest for this hour. Joining us to discuss, retired NYPD Deputy Inspector and author of Once a Cop, Kouri Pegues is with us, and criminal defense and personal injury attorney Samantha Vacchiana. Both of you, thank you so much for joining me on this Friday before a holiday, so I truly appreciate it. Samantha, I'll start with you. I got to talk about this Benefield situation once again. You know, in this age of electronics, et cetera, things seem to be becoming more common. The allegations are pretty severe. I want to get your thoughts on them and what effect it may have and what a judge might do.
Well, you're right, Michael, with all of the electrical type things that are happening nowadays, electronics and phones and what have you, and judges will always tell the jury that you're not allowed to be posting, communicating, talking to family members. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And in addition to that, the juror also who may have had some history of domestic violence, whether the perpetrator or victim, that could affect as well a judge saying, yes, this defendant is deserving of a new trial.
Ashley Benefield, is that the name of an attorney who's now an anchor on News Nation? No, you're thinking of Ashley Banfield. Benefield's a former ballerina. Former ballerina convicted of killing her husband. This is why it was called the Black Swan murder trial. Now they're saying that the hoodie guy or whatever his name is may have had a little something to be covering everything that's going on during jury deliberations that could only be coming from the inside. And if that is the case, then Ashley Benefield may have a case here. Yeah, you got the wrong Ashley. No, not good at all. In fact, that's the one thing that they tell a lot of people not to do. If you're a spectator, you can't have cell phones in the courtroom. If you're a juror, you can't have any kind of electronic device unless it's supplied to you for deliberations, like a laptop to look at evidence. But so basically, we got another one that's that's on there looking to try to get a new trial, and we're gonna see what happens later on. And that's gonna wrap it up for this edition of Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you all for subscribing to the channel. I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Like I said at the top of this podcast, I try to do things you don't know, most people don't normally do. The media will cover some cases and not others. I try to cover whether it's true crime, whether it's a case that's going to court, or even missing persons. I try to cover cases that most times the media will not cover. So if this is what you're looking for, just remember where you're at, brother. This is the home for true crime news without all the drama, where your opinions matter, where lively debates are encouraged, where your voice is heard, and above all else, justice is served. Quick check. All right. Looking forward to the next one. Heading to Brits for a bit. All right. Send a shout out from me, will ya? All right. And thanks for coming out, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, this is Bethea'S Byte, and let me tell you, from top to bottom, it's reloaded. I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw. Thank you all so much, and I will do my best to do this again come next week, whether it be a Saturday or Sunday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until next time, again, thank you all so much, and you all know what to do from here. Bite this. Thanks for watching and joining me here at the drama-free true crime destination. Be sure to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment on this video. Also, be sure to follow Bethea'S Byte Reloaded all over social media. This is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded.